is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Oh, JJ Wang, it is that time. It is time for a training camp. People are reporting. I see the pup list is filling up. I'm getting roster spots in my Dynasty because I'm throwing guys on my pup list. Here we go, man. Here we go.
It's starting to heat up. It's not going to be much longer. We're going to be full-blown into this. But, I mean, this is always kind of I don't say crappy part of the season, but like you said, people start going on a pup list. I mean, it drains their value pretty quickly, especially for, the rookies and stuff like that in Dynasty. You're like, oh that was fun while it lasted. Now you're on to, we're on the real football.
That's pretty much all these guys these names that we had that are so big that were like 6th round draft picks, undrafted free agents in Dynasty are all of a sudden nothing. One tip, then a couple of things to start. One tip, I was talking with my brother-in-law or some other guys in other leagues too, is there are guys going through Dynasty that have like open roster spots. If you have a team, you should never have an empty spot on your team. Don't drop a guy because you think you're going to pick up a guy on waivers. Wait till it happens, because if you're rolling with empty spots, that's a guy that could be a flyer, a total flyer, because you're going to see some flyers that I'm going to throw out over the next couple weeks. Starting next week, I'm going to start giving everybody some sleepers I have, and some of them are popping up in articles, but never have an empty roster spot. So here we go. So a couple of cool announcements. As you've heard, we are part of Fantasy Turf War. It's a really cool 64-team tournament. Great news. I've been gone the last 2 weeks running around, but I'll get up. Our interview with Fantasy Turf War is posted. It's live on YouTube. I have a link on our website soon. I'll also put a link on our web page, thefantasycouriers.com. I'll put a link on the Facebook because I'm old. And also we have some more connections we're making within Fantasy Turf War. If you missed the last 2 weeks, go back and listen. We did an interview with Jeff from Downfield Read. It was a good time. We made it into 2 segments. We had so much fun. We just recorded them all at once. And pretty soon we have we're going to do a session with the Gridiron Goddess. If you want to hear more about her, check out a link to her website right on our page. We got links to both their websites. Anybody else from Fantasy Turf War who's listened to us? Hey, I saved the last page for Fantasy Turf War. It's right there for you to check it out.
Yeah, I love it when you get that third person in there. It makes my job so much easier. I get to talk less. I just kind of get to ask questions and then just sit here and let other. I mean, it's way better than us having to do all the work.
And that third opinion, because a lot of times we'll agree.
Oh, absolutely.
We're too nice to each other to really agree. Like there's a couple of things that we'll get each other on, but it's more busting chops. But
I mean, like I said, people have heard our opinions so much. I mean, it just feels like I know your opinion about everything. You know mine about everything. It just, like I said, it just feels good to have a third opinion in there.
So I will highlight a couple. If you go to the fantasycouriers.com, been working on just adding some links and stuff. There's nothing big hula baloo on there, but I've added links to. I got to add my newest article because it posted middle of the week when I was in the middle of Front Rural Virginia, the middle of nowhere. But my last 2 articles that I've posted, you will get a kick out of the most recent one. But 2 weeks ago, I posted. They're called late round draft skills. A running back outside of the top 50 and a wide receiver out of the top 60. Who I thought could be a late round draft still. You'll be real excited. You got to know who the running back is.
I'm pretty sure I know who the running back is, but I'll let you say it.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. We went enough about him, but I just wanted to mention him because you cannot talk about Tyrone Tracy Jr. He could be a guy that we are totally wrong on, or he could be a total stud because all he's got to do is beat Devin Singletary, which many running backs have done. So it's quite a possibility. And the receiver I've also talked about a lot, so this one's going to be a short one, but that's Dontavian Wicks in Green Bay. And after I wrote this the last week or so, there's been some good stuff coming out. I'm getting quite excited that my steals could hit.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk for Dontavius Wicks over the last couple of weeks. For his name more recently than I ever have in the past. Like that job is wide open. And if Jordan Love is who we think Jordan Love is going to be, I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for all those guys. And he might turn out to be the number one. And as far as Tyrone Tracy goes, I just love the guy, man. I can't help it. I think there's an easy path to him for playing time. He might not be the RB one at the moment, but he's still a very capable pass catching back. And if that's the way to get him on the field, then that's how it starts. And plus, I mean, he can return kicks too. And with the new kick return rules, I mean, this is the kind of guy that's going to benefit from that. So once he gets on the field, I don't think it's going to be much longer before they realize, hey, this guy's the man.
Does it make you think that possibly in leagues with this new kick return, we're going to be updating and giving guys, like a point for every 40 kick return yards, or would you be open to that in leagues with this? Just because we're going to have stars in this spot. It's no longer going to be the undrafted rookie who you want to get the snot kicked out of. It's not going to be like Tyreek might take some kicks. He still does. But I'm just his name came in my head because he's my boy. But Tracy could take some kicks, but he could also catch 6 balls a game for 50 yards.
Yeah, I mean, that is a part of the offense. I feel like the return game is part of the offense. They're gaining yards, and if they're out here returning let's say they get 3 or 4 touchdowns, I feel like that should be involved in their fantasy numbers, right? The return yards, sure. I mean, it might not be a point for every, but yeah, point for every 25 yards, point for every 20 yards, something like that. I mean, why not? I mean, it's yards, right? I mean, so why not reward them for their yards? It just gets more players involved in fantasy. I mean, you have that kick returner spot. I mean, I think it'd be. I don't think it's going to be very long before that kind of takes off a little bit, especially if the kickoff is what they think the kickoff is going to be. But we'll see. I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be part of the Fantasy Couriers Outrageous League. We'll have to add it in there and we'll trial it up. I got a couple of fun things I'm going to throw in as we get going.
I mean, before the kickoff was not relevant. I mean, there was always some leagues where you got some yards for kickoff return. But it wasn't a lot. I mean,
like
back when Devin Hester was the man, I bet you wanted him on your fantasy team if you had kick return yards, right? That'd be the only way he would have been a valuable asset. So, yeah, I mean, I think if it works out, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. So here's the one that you're gonna smile even more, I think, for this one. Worst value pick by ADP. So my worst value quarterback, I put Jalen Hurts because right now he's consensus quarterback 2, and I think people are still thinking he's going to run touchdowns, and I don't believe he will, and I think that's why. He's going to have a great year, still be a great quarterback. He's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns, but without those 15 rushing touchdowns, that's a lot of points that I think he's probably going to be, if he doesn't rush for those, settling in quarterback 7.
Yeah, I think he'll finish somewhere in between the 5 and 10 range. I mean, that's like you said, still relevant. But if you're drafting him as the number 2 guy, that's definitely not where you want him to finish. But I think his touchdowns are definitely going to come down a little bit. Like you said, they got rid of Kelsey. That was a big part of that offensive line. I don't know the ins and outs of the tush push, but I know he's running right in behind Kelsey. I do know that. I mean, you get rid of him, so I mean, I feel like that's kind of an issue. And plus, they added Saquon Barkley. They gave Saquon Barkley a lot of money. Why would you not give the ball to him and let him take a pounding and keep your quarterback a little fresher? So yeah, I think it hurts a little bit.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. I'm gonna skip and go to the receiver that I thought. I put DJ Moore in there. DJ Moore. Never been a super fan, but he had a stellar year last year. You can't ask anything more from him. But now you're going to throw in a rookie quarterback, Keenan Allen, and a rookie receiver learning the game. I just don't see him getting that kind of a return. Could he still push 1,000? Possibly. Could I see Keenan switching his role and making it? I don't know. But the rookie quarterback, he had 1,300 yards last year.
What number is he?
DJ Moore is the number 20 wide receiver, which puts him as a wide receiver 2, and I'd feel better with him as a wide receiver 3 than 2. What are you thinking?
I mean, it's tough at the moment. Like I said, we've been waiting for DJ Long to pop off, or DJ Long. We've been waiting so long for DJ Moore to pop off. We've been waiting for him to have that good season. He finally has it, and then they just add more weapons to get a new quarterback. So it hasn't trended up for DJ Moore. I think 20 might be a little high. I mean, his season last year, I mean, we've been waiting for him to pop off like this, and he finally did. So I know it might not be 100% confident there at number 20, probably a little safer, probably might be right a little lower, but I mean, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a little tougher for him than it was last year. He's not the only show in town.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me. I mean, even the Swift, who we're not super fond of, still could catch. It's just anyway. But here's your happy one: worst value running back based on current ADP. Devon Achane. It hurt, but I had to put it because he's What is he at? As of the writing, I think he was like 8. Let me see if that's moved
He's like
at all.
some places that have
Is
him
it?
6, some people have him 7. Like you said, at number 8, and I think for Devon A. Chain, that's really high. I mean, feel like everybody's got that first 3 or 4 games in their head, and it's hard memory to leave. But I just don't think he's going to get the volume that's going to that he's going to need necessary to get back to like RB8. There's still Raheem Mostert's there. I mean, he did get injured. I don't think he's going to average over 7 yards a carry. I think it's going to be totally different. So I think you're right on with that one.
Yeah, so that one hurt, but I had to do it. So, yeah, those are my articles. If you want to read the full articles, they are on. There'll be links on the fantasycouriers.com, and you can join Fantasy Pros. And it looks like they re-upped me for another year, so should have something every week coming up. I just got my thing.
You want big things, man. Big things.
And we'll be looking at my rankings soon. Ranking show coming in August, and we even get JJ Wang's tiers as much as he loves to do them as well.
I was hoping you was going to forget about that.
So JJ Wang is going to play a little fun game with this here. Maybe even I'll do a drop this week for you. I'll have a drop for you by next week. So
that's fine.
Today, JJ Wang.
So we're going to do a little versus thing here. I got some players. Got them tiered out. Not tiered out, but I got them as in the wide receiver groups. I got a couple wide receivers, some running backs, and a couple quarterbacks here. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to give you these 3 quarterbacks. And let's say you're in a position to where you needed an older over 27, like all these guys are going to be over 27. You're in need of an older player, like you don't want to spend a lot for, that's going to be productive. And I just want you to tell me who you would choose, and maybe we can discuss what we'd be willing to give up for each one of these players. Try to get them in similar positions to make it even across the board. I think I did a pretty good job. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it did pretty good here. So we'll start out with wide receivers first. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. So we're looking at trade targets is what we're looking at, like who you would trade for.
Yeah, I mean, like, so you got a contending team. You're looking for another piece. Your wide receiver core is a little shady. You need somebody that's not going to cost much, but that's still productive. And when you're talking about that, you're looking at older guys, people that teams would be willing to players that they'd be willing to get rid of. So I'd like for you to also have out your rankings so we can kind of see where they're at. So my first guy I want to bring out is Mike Evans. He's 30 years old. We know what Mike Evans does: 1,000 yards every year, double-digit touchdowns. Does have Baker Mayfield, so there is a question mark, but they loved each other last year, so we know how that turned out. Where do you have Mike Evans ranked?
Number 24. Guess he signed those couple years, and we played Dynasty in 3-year ranks. He's got 2-year contracts, but I think
I think 24 works. All right, so my next guy is Devontae Adams, 31 years old, right? So we know what Devontae Adams does. Last year Evans was 7th, by the way, and then last year Devontae Adams was the number 10th ranked wide receiver. So what we're looking at is Devontae Adams, 31 years old. We know what Devontae Adams does: a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. Last year, with a questionable quarterback situation, he still had 103 catches, 175 targets, which is incredible. I didn't realize he had that many. 1,150 yards and 8 touchdowns. But every year before that, it's been double-digit touchdowns. So you bring in Gardner Minshew, who might start. He likes to sling it. Still got Aiden O'Connell, so we'll see what happens. So where is Devontae Adams?
And we are talking Dynasty because you're not going to trade redraft yet. So I have him at 35 because I'm in I love Adams. He's one of my favorites. And from what I'm hearing, he loves Aiden O'Connell. I have a feeling O'Connell, if Devontae Adams says he loves Aiden O'Connell's starting. But I just have that, those guys. I have this feeling we're going to be stuck here in that thing where he just hits that wall. He's going to be stellar, and then dead.
All right. I think 35. I think 35 is a good spot. I mean, that's kind of how I've had him ranked so far. Evans first, Adams second. And then I got a third guy I want to bring in. I want to bring in Amari Cooper, like 30 years old. We know what Amari Cooper does. Amari Cooper has always been productive. I feel like he's always been like the 20th ranked wide receiver. I mean, I feel like every year that's where he's at. He did have 72 catches, 1,250 yards. I didn't realize he had that many yards. But his touchdowns have been the issue. He only had 5. But he also has questionable quarterback. What is Deshaun Watson going? Is he going to play better? We've seen how he did with Joe Flacco. They paid a lot of money to Deshaun Watson, so he's going to play. So he's got to get better. So looking at those three guys, well, where's Cooper? Where do you have Cooper rank? I'm sure a little lower, right?
I have him at 38, and if of the three, Cooper I have right at ECR, which is 38. Devontae Adams ECR is 31, and which I'm four behind. I'm four worse, and then Mike Evans, I am way higher on him than the world. I'm at a +9, so I guess he would can't even do the math right now. He's 33, so it looks like they are on the ECR fairly like boom, 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 boom. Like it looks like Adams is the highest ECR, and I just have Evans higher. So Evans is my call in this one. It's not even close. As far if you're looking at dynasty trades, if you're looking for a 1 year wonder, I think it's a lot closer. But I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared that Adams is going to hit that wall, and because I don't know, like Evans is consistent. Evans gets this every single year of his career.
I feel like all three of these guys are pretty consistent. I mean, they've all.
Cooper's been. I don't like Cooper. I will never own Cooper.
That's fine. So we narrowed it down to Evans and Adams. We feel like Adams, you think, is going to hit a wall, so your call is Evans. So what are you willing to give up for him? You think a second-round pick would get it done, right?
That's what I got him for last year. So you would think probably after a year of that with Baker, it might have moved. Would the needle have moved up? Like I got him for a second last year. It might.
No, are we talking? So we're talking like a high second. So like the 13th, 14th pick, would you be willing to give up that? And like if your team was in need, would you be willing? So would you give up like that 112?
Would I give up my first round pick for my?
It is a 112. I mean, you said you'd give up the 230. Would you give up the 112?
I am one that I'll take if I think he's gonna be good for 3 years, I got to give up the 112. I mean that 112 is the 2-1. It's give or take back and forth. I mean the 112 tiers with essentially the 2-1 through 3 and 9 times out of 10. So yeah, if I'm on the verge of a championship and all I need is Mike Evans, even if it's just this year, the 112 is worth the ship. So
absolutely. I like that.
I would be tempted to do that for Adams for a year. For 1 year. For Evans, I'd pay that for 2-3 years. For Adams, I mean, I think they might both go together, but yeah, I would. Now for Cooper, I like Cooper. I mean, Jameis might be thrown to him. Who knows? But it'd be a harder sell for me.
I agree. I mean, I kind of see how that is too. I mean, like you said, winning the championship, that 112, not really all that value. I think I'd definitely give that up. All right, that's kind of how I thought it would roll. So the next, we'll go with running backs here. I got two sets of running backs. The first one, I want to go with Saquon Barkley. He is 27 in a new spot with the Philadelphia Eagles. Very good offense. Last year he was RB 13, 962 yards, 6 touchdowns. But he did have 41 catches for another 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. Where do you have Charles? I was about to say Charles Barkley.
I have Charles Barkley as my 999th ranked guy. Saquon, I have him at 7. I'm one above ECR. I think Saquon. I think he has a better year. I mean, last year it was Saquon and a bunch of Jags, and I just think this year they can't put everybody in the box because they got studs on the outside. Dallas Goedert's sort of going downhill, but you got to worry about Hurts running, so RPOs all over the place, and he can catch. Dude, I don't even. Let me go. I might have him higher in redraft. I got to have him super high.
You got him at number 7. The next running back I want to bring up is Derrick Henry. My love for Derrick Henry is insane at the moment. He is Barkley was 27. Derrick Henry is 30 years old. He is also in a new position, and I think a better position. Both of these guys are going to better teams. Very, very good teams. Last year, he had 1,167 yards and 12 touchdowns. He had 28 catches for another 200 yards, but we know that's not what we get Derrick Henry for. But put him in that offense, I think it's going to be crazy. Where are you at with King Henry?
I have him as my 14th ranked guy because I think the dude is a cyborg. I'm +6 ECR on that, so they have him at 20. But he's in that offense. There is not a better landing spot for a running back. I mean, even with Lamar running all that time, he made Gus Edwards look great. I mean, look over the years. If the games JK played, he looked like a stud, and then he got hurt. But any running backs they have made, some Jags look. That's my word of the day. Look like they are studs. Now take a stud, put him with a stud, and Mark Andrews a stud, and it doesn't matter who the wide receivers are. This team could be like watching Army play football, just for hours on day. And he should improve on those. And yeah, both these guys, I'm still looking. These two guys I have in a 2-year window in my mind, but I think 2 years for his value.
So so I'm thinking Barkley at this point in his career still worth a first round pick if you're trying to win a championship.
Yeah, I think so.
Is Derrick Henry the same, or could I maybe get Derrick Henry a little less because he is older? But I mean, he is Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, you can probably get cheaper, and of the two, who's the third guy?
Mixon? It's only I got another set of running backs, so I'm only going with these two guys. I thought these two guys compared very well together, so I didn't want to add in another one.
I would buy Henry over Barkley because I think people are still going to ask for the ranch for Barkley because of the reasons I said. And I think both of them could serve the same. If your team is really good, getting Henry versus Barkley is the difference between obliterating your opponent and really beating your opponent. I'll really beat my opponent, save some value on my team, as opposed to obliterating my opponent and losing more for the future. So I would buy Henry of these two, even though I do think Barkley might be slightly better because he'll get more catches and he's on I mean, spoiler alert, the Ravens might be my Super Bowl pick as of the mid to late July. But so I think they're both going to be stellar, but I would buy Henry first.
I think that's the way I would probably go as well. I know injuries you don't want to look at injuries, but I know you do play a bias. And as far as their career goes, Derrick Henry has always seemed to be like healthy. I mean, I know Saquon does play. I mean, he plays a lot, but I mean, he's always felt like he's been injured like all the time. It's that's just that thing you have in the back of your head, and you don't really want to pay a lot for that. Yeah, and like I said, if you're trying to win the championship this year, and even if Derrick Henry only gives you one more good year, I mean, I think a late first, like that 112, 2-1, I'd give that up for Derrick Henry. So,
yeah, I would give it up, but I think you could get him. You could throw like a second and a third. I'd rather give up a second and a third than a first for a better.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's gonna be a stud.
Yeah. All right. Next set of running backs. We got Alvin Kamara, who's 28. Last year, he wasn't the greatest, but he still finished RB 11. He had 694 rushing yards and another 466 receiving. He did have 75 catches, so that's where he makes all of his money. And then we got James Conner, 29 years old. I think he finished last year at number 18. Oh, where did you have Alvin Kamara, by the way?
I have him at 20. I'm lower on him. I have him at 27. ECR's 24, and then going to Connor. Connor, I have him. I'm way low on him at 43, and that's because I love Benson. ECR is 34, so I think that's I love Connor, and I think these two guys we're looking at. Kamara has Kendre Miller, who they're talking up a little bit, but Connor, I'm so high on Benson. Like Benson's my RB1 in this rookie class. I mean, I have him he's my RB15 for Dynasty. So, but if I'm trading for a year, I just think the Saints are gonna be so bad. I really have this feeling the Saints are gonna suck really bad, and I think Connor's gonna have if Connor is healthy, Connor could push for RB15, maybe even push into an RB1 value, whereas Kamara, he's going to be Kamara, and he feels like the candidate. He might be one of my guys if they give me an article like who's the guy that's going to drop off the face of the earth. That might be Kamara. Like it feels like it should be about that time. I could be totally wrong. I love Kamara. I love West. He's so good. He owes me a championship.
I feel like it's about that time for both these guys. I mean, Alvin Kamara said it was his worst year, and he finished as RB11. So I mean, still, it's not like you ask him to get 1,000 rushing yards. So I mean, I think that helps. Even with Kendre Miller coming in, Alvin Kamara would still be a legitimate pass catching threat, like the best um, uh, 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 pass catching back in the league if that's what they wanted to roll to. So yeah, I think he's really safe there. And I think as far as like playing a whole season, I think Kamara is safer bet to playing the whole season. I think if at the end of the year Trey Benson might start stealing some touches. I don't know if Kendre Miller's that good, but like I said, if Kendre Miller's the runner and Alvin Kamara is still the receiver going into the fantasy playoffs, I would rather have Kamara that's still playing and not James Conner that maybe lost a lot of work. Because it's not going to take much work for Conner to lose before he's not really relevant, correct?
I don't know. I mean, he's shown us that if he's healthy, he's great. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah.
He
That is
played,
true.
I mean, last year he had a good year, and we think we both. I convinced you Kyler's a great dynasty asset with,
I'm all one. I like me some Kyler. I don't know
I got,
why. I like me.
I got you on the train with me because we like Marvin Harris, and I love all the weapons there. So it'll be like this. There's not gonna be a box in no matter how good he plays. Like he's not Saquon, but yeah, if I had, I'd buy probably Connor for this year because I think he'd be cheaper and. And it depends what the asking prices are. Like I'd give up what I mean. It's a running back, so running backs still have a higher price tag. You know, would you give up a second for Kamara? Say a mid-second for Kamara?
I think I would. I mean, it's a mid-second. I mean, you go back and look at the drafts, like who are you getting like in the middle of the second? Sometimes you never even hear these guys ever again. But I mean, I think Kamara's good enough. Like if I'm able to put Kamara in my flex spot, I'd be very excited about that, right?
Yeah.
Connor, I'd probably end up giving the same for Connor, maybe a little less, like because there is that thing with Connor. So he probably is a little cheaper. But then again, I don't know if I would feel as confident with James Conner in my flex at the end of the season than I would be with Kamara. So I think I'd go Kamara here, giving up like a mid-second if I had to. I mean, who cares, right?
I might have to zag and go with you. That rat fink of my brother, he snaked me on Benson by literally 2 picks in our most recent rookie draft. I was so mad. It's like, oh, we were gonna trade. And he's like, oh, wait, soon. I was like, oh, you suck. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all. No, it was a trade that got me out of Benson. I was pretty ticked off. I had a trade set up, and it wasn't my brother. Who was it? But anyway, yeah. Neither here nor there. So okay, where are we going next?
Well, with last set of guys, I got quarterbacks. So I got Aaron Rodgers, who's 40 years old. We know what Aaron Rodgers does. I mean, he had one pass attempt, so you can't really judge him off that. Coming off the Achilles injury, we're going to see what happens there. And then we got Kirk Cousins.
They're back to back.
Who's also going to a new team, who's also coming off an Achilles injury, and he looked really, really good with Justin Jefferson in the beginning of the season. He was a top 5 option in the beginning of the season. Then he got hurt. Going to a new team, signed a big money deal. He's been pretty quiet this offseason. I want to say that's probably a good thing. Maybe I'm not really sure. But I hope he's going to play in the beginning of the season. So, I mean, if you were looking for maybe like not your QB2, but you needed a third quarterback, right? And you need that guy in case one of these guys go down. I think both of these guys are readily available. I think you could get them pretty easily. So as your QB3, maybe as your QB2, who knows? But if you wanted one of these guys, who are you going out there and getting?
Ironically, they are back to back in my dynasty rankings. I have Rodgers at 23, and I'm not a Rodgers guy, and I'm +7 ECR on that guy. I have Cousins at 24. I'm a -1 ECR on him, so it's kind of funny to look at that. If I'm going out to buy, I'm probably buying Rodgers because he's a ton cheaper. Although, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard much about Penix to see what's going on with him. But it just feels like I think my hesitation is if Rodgers is doing what he says he's going to do, he's going to play 2 more years unless this year's a total disaster. Kirk Cousins, I think 2 years as well. But Rodgers will – I don't – like we're talking one spot for me. So Rodgers I think would be cheaper because if I think Cousins plays 2 years, his contract says 4. But I love Penix, so I think Penix could sneak in. But I think he's going to learn the curve, and maybe they trade Cousins away to a team that needs a quarterback. So Cousins. I mean, for both these guys, I think the cost is probably similar. It depends if it's a single or double. I mean, we play a lot of super flex, single quarterback. I'm not gonna get either. You carry one quarterback and then get some dude off the waivers.
Oh yeah,
Super flex. I mean, it's a quarterback. You're still giving up a second even for an old dude. I mean, I
Yeah,
still think it's what's it cost.
I think that's absolutely what it's going to cost. And that a quarterback, I mean, either one of these quarterbacks, I mean, you're going into this thinking that they're both going to play. That's why you're trading for them. So if you want to trade for Kirk Cousins, you're going to it thinking that he's going to play. Going to Aaron Rodgers, you're thinking these guys are going to play, so you're willing to give it up. And for a quarterback for one season, I mean, you almost got to give up a second. And I proudly give up a second. I'd probably give up a second for Aaron Rodgers first. Because I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback.
Garrett Wilson is why you'll give up. Like we love Drake. It's Garrett Wilson.
I think Aaron Rodgers is, with his injury happening a little earlier, will be a little more ready to go than Kirk Cousins. But we'll see. But yeah, it's still going to take a second. But I think I would go Aaron Rodgers first if I could get. I think he'd probably be pretty easy to get. I guess depending on what team he's on, but I mean, if he's on a team that sucks, I think he'd be pretty easy to get.
Yeah, I think he's a new one. I realized, hey, here's my closing before we ask for your wisdom. I just did a draft a few weeks ago on my original Dynasty team, and I got all the Michigan Wolverine players. I only had a couple picks, so second and third rounder. So I walked away. This is hard for me. I got JJ McCarthy. We're getting ready. We're going to Superflex in 2 years. So I'm like, I'm building up a quarterback core.
Yeah.
So JJ, I got JJ. He's my taxi now, and then I got Roman Wilson because the Steelers do everything right in the world. And I was getting ready to trade my brother. He stole from me his pick. He's like, "There's one guy I want right here," and it was Tyrone Tracy Jr. That was the right act. Everybody loves the guy. So, but I just drafted all Michigan Wolverines. Those were my picks, and I got some guys off waivers later. But. So those are the guys. So for the next couple weeks, I'm going to start with some dark horses as we go. Maybe briefly say whatever my article is, and JJ Wang's going to toss out some players. My dark horses will be based on in season. He'll throw out some dynasty, so we'll get a little bit of this, a little bit of that as we get ready for the season. And in the upcoming weeks, we'll have some very special guests, hopefully, and we're getting ready also for the Outrageous League coming up. I'll send out information about that soon. I'm home and ready to pick up some work here on the DJ Dub internet side, but everything will be posted on the fantasycouriers.com. JJ Wang, give us some words of wisdom.
All right, words of wisdom. Speaking of guys that we all love, I feel like we're all pretty much Eminem fans. I feel like, right? Not so much now as we were back in the day, but I'm not as big as Eminem fan, and I really want to be a fan. I really, really do, right? So I wanted to give this last album a chance. And have you listened to any of his albums?
I threw in bits and pieces, and I liked the song, the "I'm Sorry" song. Oh, that was a cool little heartfelt song. But everything, I was just kind of. I mean, I don't get old guys trying to be young guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the feel I sort of got from some of them. Like I threw it finally the other day.
I feel like in the rap game is kind of different. I mean, we got these rock stars out here rocking until they're like 60 and 70 years old, and we think it's all normal. But as soon as a rapper hits like 35, he's got to retire. Like once you hit past 35, you can't be a rapper no more. I think that's a pretty good stereotype. But like I said, I love Eminem, but it's just not. Well, I guess it's not the same, right? Because we're older, and he's an older guy. But I mean, I'm glad to still see him out there doing it. But give it a listen. You might like it, but I'd have to say I'm just not a fan. As always, trust yourself and trust the process.